Almost everyone in the world knows what Oktoberfest is. You immediately picture thousands of people, crowds teeming with people, large beers, and lots of it. Oktoberfest started as a festival to celebrate the marriage of King Ludwig, then the Crown Prince, to a princess whose name is long and almost impossible for me to pronounce. 5 days after the wedding, they held a huge festival outside of one of the large gates of the city of Munich, and since then, traditionally, it has been celebrated every year. Oktoberfest, in its over 200-year tradition, has only been cancelled 24 times, including this year due to the coronavirus pandemic. Most of the time that it's been closed has been due to war, cholera outbreaks, or disease of some other kind. It really takes a lot to get the Germans to stop drinking beer. I get that. Something that makes Oktoberfest really special to me, and to a lot of beer drinkers out there, is that it's one of the only festivals that actually has its own beer style. You'll see a lot of different names for the same beer. Oktoberfest Beer, Fest Beer, spelled both B-E-E-R and B-E-I-R. Marzen is another name for them. Now, the Marzen style, which means March in German, has been around for longer than Oktoberfest. But those beers tended to be used for Oktoberfest because they were brewed in the springtime, and by the time they were ready to be served, it was about October, about time for the festival. But in recent years, it's been started in September, specifically because the weather is just better. Because Oktoberfest is a Bavarian holiday, not necessarily a German holiday, the only breweries that are allowed to be officially served at Oktoberfest are breweries found inside of Munich. Currently, there are 6 official breweries for Oktoberfest: Augustiner, Lowenbrau, Hofbrauhaus, Paulaner, Hacker Shore, and Spaten. These are the only beers that are allowed to be served at the Oktoberfest festival. Marzens or Fest beers are a very full-bodied ale that can range in color from dark amber to all the way up to pale. Hofbrauhaus's Oktoberfest is a very pale, straw-colored Oktoberfest, whereas Samuel Adams' Oktoberfest is a very dark brown color. While these beers are still associated with Oktoberfest and called Oktoberfest or Fest beers, the tradition of serving them, due to their long shelf life, no longer being used. Since the long shelf life of Marzen beers really doesn't come into play with modern refrigeration and things like that, Oktoberfest beers or Fest beers or Marzens have seen a decline in Oktoberfest in drinking. You really don't find too many actual Fest beers there anymore. The first Fest beer we have is from Bavarian brewery Einger. Let's go ahead and check it out. Another light Marzen. Nice light amber color, not too light, not straw like Hofbrau, not too dark. You can definitely smell the malt, a little bit of wheat and yeast. Very malty taste on the front. A little bit of bitter in the back, caramel notes. Now I'm craving sausages. The next one that we have, this Marzen comes from Weichenstephaner Brewery, the oldest running brewery in the world, established in 1040 AD. Both of these beers were also brewed in accordance to the Bavarian Purity Law of 1516, meaning they only include 3 ingredients other than yeast, which is water, hops, and malt. It smells a lot less malty than the Einger did. The head's got a very specific taste. I don't want to say it, but the head almost tastes like drinking a Heineken. Getting a little bit of the malt in the back, not quite as malt forward as I would like. I would honestly pair this with a crisp salad, maybe something with cranberries in it. It has a very crisp taste that I think would lend very well to some kind of crunchy, light food. The next beer we have up isn't a Fest beer at all. Instead, it's a Dunkel, or a German dark lager. Usually dark brown, dark amber to a reddish brown color is their range. Not too high, not too low in the alcohol percentages. Now these beers, Dunkels, are known for being extremely smooth and malty. Very, very malty. Crisp though. It's almost as if somebody made a stout into a lager. There's a lot of taste in here, a lot of taste playing on the tongue. This would probably go really well with like a stew. Get the beef and vegetables to really bring out the complexities in the beer. Now I can't talk about German beers in general without bringing up a few German beer cocktails. I worked for a while at a German restaurant as a bartender, and I learned that traditionally there are German beer cocktails. For instance, this is what's called a Cola-Weisse, or Coke and Hefeweizen. People also mix Coke and wine, which I thought was crazy until I tried it. Now you can see it darkened the beer quite a bit. There's a little bit of the straight cola floating on the bottom there. Gives it a really pretty feel, and as it bubbles, it's going to mix itself in, but we're going to take a drink. Coke just adds that extra little flavor. I'm not even sure how to explain it. But if you have Coke and Hefeweizen in the house, it's worth a try. Now, I haven't found Kohleweisse packaged in that way, but you can find some other beer cocktails pre-packaged. This is called a Radler. What a Radler usually is juice mixed with beer. This one is basically a lager or a light beer mixed grapefruit. Almost like a summer shandy can be a lager or a wheat beer mixed with a little bit of citrus. A lot of citrus here, a lot of grapefruit. Oh, that tastes like candy. There's no sourness of the grapefruit. You're not getting any of that puckering. Just a crisp lager with a nice grapefruit citrus undertone. That's been Brew Talk Geek. Thanks for drinking with me.